They better be sure in Houston that they can keep their young ascending quarterback from being dragged down directly or indirectly by the intense competitiveness of Stefon Diggs. And look, I come from this perspective of Stefon Diggs can do no wrong in my eyes, but there are
That's
situations
what you were
where I
fighting about
think
with
he
Sims
merits
yesterday. Uh-oh.
criticism. But no, because there are occasions where it's like, Stefon, I understand you're competitive, but you really shouldn't, stand in your quarterback's face and throw your arms up publicly. And, some of the things that overcome him when he is in the moment and wants intensely to win. Everybody who's playing professional football wants intensely to win. Things aren't going to go your way on a regular basis. You have to be able to process your disappointment and move on without potentially impairing relationship with coach, relationship with quarterback, development of young quarterback. And where Sims and I got into our fight yesterday, Myles, was when I was taking the position, because look, in Sims' eyes, Josh Allen can do no wrong, and that's been established fact since 2018. But
Yes.
I'm a firm believer that at some point the quarterback needs to take charge of the players around him. And I don't think Josh Allen is wired to do that. It's not a criticism, it's an observation.
Sounds
Josh
like a
Allen is
criticism.
he's not wired to do it. It's not like he's choosing not to do it. We're all wired a certain way. I'm wired a certain way, as most of you well know. Myles, you're wired a certain way. We're all who we are. And somebody explained this to me years ago. Like with a quarterback, there are only a small handful of truly natural leaders. They're just guys who can throw a football better than anyone. But they play the position that carries with it an expectation that you will be a leader. And when you have a receiver who is disrespecting the quarterback in different ways, and the quarterback just sits there and takes it, and by all appearances does nothing to try to get the receiver to stop doing it, there's a point where the team needs to step in. And what I was told years ago by somebody who I think understands very well how this process should work, when you have a quarterback who isn't a natural-born leader, it's incumbent on the organization to create a situation where everybody inside and outside the team comes to the conclusion that he is a natural-born leader, even if maybe he isn't. And I'm not saying Josh Allen is the outlier. I'd say a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL aren't natural-born Peyton Manning-type leaders. We praise Peyton Manning in part because he had a knack, a willingness, a tendency, a desire to take over everything. Not in a malicious way, not in a power grab way, but he believes this is the way to win, and I'm going to come in here and make sure this is done right, and I'm going to stay up late, and I'm going to get here early, and I'm going to do everything possible that I can to contribute to this effort. And if somebody is acting up, I'm going to go tell them they're acting up. I'm going to tell them, get their act together. I'm going to tell them what they need to hear, even if they don't want to hear it. Most quarterbacks aren't like that. And so I think part of what the Bills were doing, and I think ultimately this is about clearing out anyone. I thought that a little, well, I don't know what that was. I'm going to let it go. We'll talk about it offline. I don't know what that eye roll was. But I saw it from my lower peripheral vision. Kind of like
I don't know.
I saw something like
honestly,
this.
I don't know what you mean.
Right. Okay, so anyway, I think this is about, we got a guy here
Camera's
who's a
glitching
detriment. He's a detriment to what Josh Allen is trying to become. And we only got so many years left of Josh Allen's prime. So I feel like they are deliberately taking a step back. This is like where you're in a balloon. Not that I've ever even been in a balloon. But you're in the balloon and it's not flying, and so you throw stuff out of the balloon to make it fly, even if it's stuff you like, if stuff you want, you throw it out because the balloon's got to go. So we got to throw Stefon Diggs out of the balloon basket to get Josh Allen's career to where it needs to go. And at first, it may be a little wobbly, but I think this is a longer-term play aimed at laying the foundation to let Josh Allen mature into the leader that they hope as he gets closer to 30, he'll become. That's what I think the core of this is. This is about making it clear to everyone this is Josh Allen's team.
I think there's a lot in there that, you're making assumptions about, which is okay. But yeah, I think that it's not just about leadership and all that. And sometimes we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, and we publicly, it doesn't seem like Josh Allen is gonna be the same guy as a Peyton Manning, because I always think of, and I thought about this even before you said his name. There's a famous clip of him yelling at Jeff Saturday on the sideline after Jeff Saturday did something and he was complaining about Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning goes, "Hey, when I tell you to block, block." He like gets up, he throws whatever he was reading down, and he goes over and he yells at Jeff Saturday. And Jeff Saturday has told the story many times and he laughs about it now, but that's the kind of thing where it's field general, and we see Peyton Manning do it, and it's like, oh yeah, like that's him. Tom Brady, same thing. We see him yelling at people, or used to. It's still weird to me that he's really retired. We see him yelling at people on the sideline all the time. And it's interesting because you don't necessarily see that out of a Patrick Mahomes, right? But who is right now the gold standard of quarterback leadership in the National Football League? Well, it's Patrick Mahomes. And so even though, at press conferences and things like that, he was defending Kadarius Toney until the cows came home, right? And he's saying, "Oh, our receivers are going to get it right. They're going to do this. They're going to do that." Some of them did step up. Kadarius Toney obviously did not play in the postseason, and it's kind of weird that he's still on the Chiefs roster. But there are ways where I'm sure Patrick Mahomes behind the scenes was getting something done with his receivers, whereas we didn't necessarily see that on Sundays, right? I think the most frustration we've ever seen at Patrick Mahomes was when Andy Reid told him to get his ankle checked out, and he was mad because he was potentially injured, and he was mad at Andy Reid for going and telling him to get his ankle checked out like that. So, I think that there are different forms of leadership, even if we don't see it, when the cameras are rolling. Things can be different behind the scenes if all of that comes together and makes sense in some way.
Oh, and it does. And there are parallels between what the Bills did with Stefon Diggs and what the Chiefs did 2 years ago with Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill got to the point where the Chiefs no longer wanted him around. And I believe that in that 2021 season, when Cooper Kupp was threatening Calvin Johnson's yardage record, Tyreek Hill, who had a career high in targets that year, was pissed off because he thought, if Cooper Kupp can do it, I can do it too. I want to be getting that kind of attention. I want to be generating that kind of yardage. And he admitted that, basically, after the fact. Yeah. After the dust settled on the trade, he admitted that he wanted more. And, yeah, Patrick Mahomes gets to a point where it's like, we just got to move on. And Patrick Mahomes was involved with the deliberations internally and the decision-making, and gave the assurance to Andy Reid, "I'll make this work." And they've won every Super Bowl that's been played since they traded Tyreek Hill. I don't know if the Bills are going to have the same benefit from this, but Tyreek Hill is a lot better than Stefon Diggs. I don't know where Stefon Diggs currently fits among the best receivers in the game.
That's a good question.
His production last year, as you pointed out, he hasn't 100. Like, how can you be a top 10 receiver if you haven't had a 100-yard game since week 6? Right. How are you a top 10 receiver if you're running open underneath on that third down when he would have easily had a first down, but instead Josh Allen throws to the end zone and gets hit? Khalil Shakir was open, but he gets hit just as he's throwing it. It goes incomplete, and then yada, 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 field goals missed, and that's it for the Bills at a time when it felt like they were methodically driving down the field to try to get the win by keeping Patrick Mahomes off the field. They go into overdrive to the end zone when Diggs is open. Throw it to Diggs. He's your number one guy, or at least we thought he was. That's the real question. I've seen speculation that he may not even be the number 2 guy in Houston. He might be their number 3 receiver for $22 million this year. I mean, the money would kind of tell us they view him as a number 1 for $22 million. That's still in the range of number 1 receiver pay. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.